Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is the 1st of April and I have had some book posts which I wanted to show you because I'm now basically including any book post in these wrap-ups because it just seems like the place to put it. I don't do book hauls really, so this is the only space I have, so that's what we're doing. I knew that this was coming because I entered a competition and won, and that was from Rachel Marie from Rachel Marie. She's just changed her name. She was previously Rachel Marie's Book Journey, and before that she was Rachel Marie Book Junkie. Basically, she had her second Booktube birthday recently, and she put on Twitter and said that she was doing a live show. She wanted questions. Anyone who put a question in would go into a draw, and then she would pick a book from the Amazon wishlist of that person who won it and send it to them. So I asked her the question, what's the video that you're most proud of? And I'll put, obviously her link will be in the description of this video. And then I won the draw, which was really cool because I enter stuff like this all the time and I never win it. Didn't expect to. So I was really chuffed. And then she sent me a message asking for my wish list, which I sent her. And she picked the most expensive book on my Amazon wish list, which I absolutely did not expect. Rachel, you've absolutely gone above and beyond. Because she sent me Middlegame by Seanan McGuire. Now, this is a book that is on my wish list because Rachel will not shut up about it. Also, Kayla from Books and Lala absolutely raves about this book. I put it on my TBR because the two of them will not shut up about it. Also, Seanan McGuire is the author of the Wayward Children series, which I absolutely adore. I've read all of them in the last 6 months. And this is her first full length, I think this is adult, fantasy, I think. I don't actually know that much about it. I'm not sure if it's fantasy or sci-fi or a mix of both. All I know it's something to do with a pair of twins called Roger and Dodger and something about becoming gods, I think, but I could be totally wrong. I absolutely love this cover. It's really creepy and really cool, and it's got nice foiling on the spine. Yeah, so all I know about it is that two of my favourite booktubers love it. I already love the author and her novellas. And now I'm really, really excited to jump into this some point soon. I think I might put it on my May TBR to break up the mental health one stuff. Or I might get to it this month. We will see. But Rachel, thank you so, so much. You were incredibly kind and very generous. And I can't wait to read this. It's the 3rd of April and I have finally finished a book that I've been reading for about 2.5 weeks, which is Laurus by Eugene Vodolazkin. Sorry. There it is. This is a book my brother sent me for my birthday last August. My brother likes to send me books that push me out of my comfort zone, which is great, and I found some really good stuff this way. But sometimes it doesn't quite go to plan. So this is a book set in 15th century Russia. We're basically following one man through his whole life. And I really loved the first 100 pages. It was really atmospheric and I was hooked. And it sort of reminded me of the Winter Night Trilogy by Catherine Arden. But the pace for the second 2/3 is really slow and it's very repetitive, and it's frustrating because sections of it, I mean, it's beautifully written, the writing is beautiful, it's just really slow, and for me I really struggle with that, and I found myself like skimming passages. I've given it 3 out of 5 stars in the end. I think if you're into like epic fantasy, I think this would be good. Even though this is historical fiction, it does feel like epic fantasy in places, so I feel like it would probably be a good shout if you're into that kind of thing. Also, obviously, if you like historical fiction, give this a try. But this is slow. It's very character-based, and it's very much looking at religion and spirituality and beliefs and working out who you are as a person. So, yeah, it's not my favourite one of the ones that my brother sent me, but it was still a 3 out of 5, and I'm glad I read it. It's the 6th of April and as you can see I'm in my filming setup. I'm just filming the over 30 on Booktube tag, which you'll have seen by the time this goes up, so I'll put that up there. And I thought I would take advantage of having everything set up to talk about the next read of the month, which was The Innocent Wife by Amy Lloyd. So, the lovely Connor from Connor Booktube, who I will link in the description, gifted this to me last month, which was just so, so kind of him, and I was so excited to pick this up that it went straight onto my April TBR. We are following a girl called Sam who is British, and she comes across the case of a guy in Florida in the States who was on death row for the murder of a child, and something about the circumstances around his confession and all that kind of thing strikes her as odd, and so she basically gets a bit obsessed with the case and decides that she thinks that he's innocent. She then starts to correspond with him. and they have a romance. She goes out to the States to see him, and while she's there, he proposes to her, they get married, and then the state releases him on new evidence. And basically on the front it says, you trust him, so why are you so scared? And the twist or the like thriller aspect of it is that question of, was he innocent or not? I really wanted to like this, and the positives are it's really fast paced. I read it really, really quickly. It's like 385 pages, and I read it really, I could have read it in one go, except I had to, you know, go to bed and boring life stuff. So that was great. Pacing was good. However, I've given it 2 out of 5 stars because I just really didn't like Sam at all. And the problem with that is that I then didn't care if she was in danger or not, which sounds really harsh. Also, there isn't that good of a twist in this. I'm trying not to give spoilers. I think for me, it's a debut novel, and it felt very much like that. It felt very basic. I could see where it was going. It felt like a draft rather than a finished book, and I came away from it just kind of disappointed, which is really annoying. However, she's got another book that came out last year. I would definitely pick that up if I see it, because I think her writing had potential, but it just wasn't quite there for me. It just wasn't quite tight enough. I do need to give a content warning. There is some graphic scenes and violence in this, so just be aware going in. It's not for the faint-hearted and it's not for a beginner. But yeah, for me, this just missed the mark. It's still the 6th of April. I had just finished filming and there was a knock at the door from an Amazon delivery person who obviously delivered this at a distance, and I don't think I've ordered anything, so I thought I would open it on camera in case it's a present, because I think it's nice opening it on camera so that then that person can kind of see your actual reaction to their gift. Oh, it's big, whatever it is. Okay, let's find I've got the thing. This is from Tracy, who is Tracy's Year in Books, and I'll leave her link in the description. She did a little gift to make you smile, love, Tracy. What is she? Oh, she sent me the binding by Bridget Collins. I have wanted to read this for ages. Look how gorgeous that book is. I mean, Tracy, this is not a cheap present. So I think this is historical fiction with a fabulist element to it. And I think it's something about binding memories into books. Oh, I'm very, very excited by this. And it's also been blurred on the front by Tracy Chevalier, who's one of my favourite historical fiction authors. Thank you so much. This is amazing. And I am going to read this really, really soon, so thank you. It's the 7th of April and I am out doing the weekly food run at Tesco's. Obviously, it's the only time I'm leaving the house now. And can't lie, feel a little bit nervous, but gotta do what I've got to do. So I have just finished The Missing by C.L.Taylor on audiobook. I'm gradually working my way through her backlist because they're all available on Scribed. This is her 3rd book, and we're following a family whose teenage son has disappeared. I have actually given this 2 out of 5 stars. I've hardly ever give 2 stars, and then I've given 2 in a row. I think it was just because I was just kind of bored. And it was nothing wrong with it, and I think if you're new to the genre it would probably be a good one. It's not a thriller. I think that's what's tripping me up. It was very much like a family drama / mystery, and there was no like big twist or big reveal. I was just a bit bored, and I'm not quite sure why that is, because Nicole's read it and Simone's read it according to Goodreads, and they both gave it 4 stars, so I don't quite know why I was so unimpressed, but I've given it 2 stars and it wasn't for me, and we're moving on. It's the 14th of April, and over the Easter bank holiday weekend I finished 5 books. I was filming the 12-hour reading challenge that Faye from Mystery Day with a Book had set, and the vlog for that will have been up before this, so I will stick it up here. And to be honest, after filming that I didn't really feel like filming any more over the weekend, so I didn't film the normal clips. So we're just going to do one big wrap-up clip here for these books. So because of the lockdown, one of the changes for me has been that I've suddenly turned into a mood reader. Previously I would have 1 book in my bag to take to work that I'd be reading in my lunch break, 1 book downstairs to read in the evenings, and an audiobook, and that'd be it. I'd start those books, finish those books, and then pick up another one. However, for some reason I've just felt like picking up loads of different stuff recently, so I started the weekend with 4 books to finish, and then I started and completed a book during the 12-hour reading challenge. So I'm going to go through them in the usual way, in the order that I finished them. So first of all, I finished The Wizard of Oz by Frank Baum. Hopefully I've said that right. This is my first ever buddy read with the lovely Emily from Novell Novels. I absolutely loved reading with her. It was really fun, and this was a great book for us to choose. I have read this, but not since I was a kid, and in case you don't know, it's about a little girl called Dorothy who winds up in the land of Oz after a tornado, I think it is, picks up her house and drops her in the middle of this magical land, and it's her adventures trying to get home. And I thought this was really lovely. It's quite different from the film. First of all, the most important thing you'll probably see here is her slippers are not ruby slippers, they are silver in the book. And I looked it up afterwards, and it turned out that when they made the film, the red showed up on camera better, so they changed it to ruby slippers, which I thought was quite interesting. And yeah, I just thought this was a really fun, sweet little book, some really beautiful nature writing in it as well, and I gave it 5 stars. The rest of the books are pretty different to that. Next up, I finished this month's Atwood read, which is Life Before Man. This was her 4th novel. And I've been going back and forth, but I think this is my favourite of the 4 that we read in the first quarter. We're basically following 3 characters. 2 of them are married to each other, but they have basically an open marriage because they both have partners outside of their marriage, and it's basically an examination of their relationship falling apart. It's literary fiction, but I think in this, if you're someone who's read a lot of the later Atwoods, I think this is the first one where it really felt like the Atwood writing that I knew, and there's a lot of familiar motifs from things like The Handmaid's Tale. This is quite grim reading. I need to give a content warning for suicide, which is mentioned throughout the book in quite graphic detail, so be aware of that please, and look after yourselves. So it's not exactly the most uplifting of reads, but I find it really interesting as like an examination of different relationships between people, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Girls with Sharp Sticks by Suzanne Young. This was gifted to me by Faye, who I already mentioned, from Mystery Date with a Book in March. She sent this to me right at the end of the month, and it was just so well timed, and I was really, really excited to pick it up. So I did. Usually a book would probably stay on my shelf for a month or 2 before I get to it, but this one I was just too excited, and actually it was perfect for right now because it's a YA. I don't know how to categorise it without giving the twist away. It's a YA, should we say dystopian? That's probably the best way without giving everything away. Set in a girls' boarding school, so it was a fast, easy read for me. I flew through it in, I probably could have done it in one go actually, but I read it in 2 sittings. We're following a all-girls boarding school where things are not quite what they seem. If you've read Only Ever Yours by Louise O'Neill, the twist is different, but it's a similar vibe. It's got strong feminist themes. It's about, there's a lot of discussions around waking up to the world around you, and I thought it was done really well. I gave it 4 stars rather than 5, only because I worked out the twist quite quickly, and I felt like some of the tension was slightly baggy in places, and I think you probably could have chopped out like 50 pages to make it a bit slicker, but I still really enjoyed it, and I really want to pick up the next one, although it's not out on paperback yet, and I want to wait so that I can get hopefully a matching one with this. But yeah, if you're looking for an interesting, twisty, fun read, easy read, I would recommend this. I'm just trying to think if there are any trigger warnings in it. Violence as a trigger warning, it's definitely YA. But yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Faye, thank you very much for sending this to me. I really enjoyed it. I then read, if you've seen the 12-hour readathon, I started and completed a book in one day, and it's quite a difficult one to talk about. It's Tender as the Flesh by Agustina, hopefully I get this right, Bazterrica. I saw Harriet from Harriet Rosie Reads talk about this in one of her recent wrap-ups, and the way she talked about it made me want to read it so much that I ordered it that day. It arrived on the Friday afternoon, and I held off and kept it for the Saturday when I was doing the 12-hour reading challenge. And this is not going to be for everyone, so I've had a few people on Twitter say that they were interested in reading it because they'd seen that I'd loved it, but please be careful before you pick it up. Don't just pick it up because I've said it's great. However, it's one of the best written things I've read this year for sure. It's about cannibalism. So it's a dystopian science fiction horror is probably the best way to categorise it. It's set in a world where basically all of the animals contracted a disease which made them poisonous to humans, so animal flesh is no longer eaten because it's poisonous, and so they legalised the consumption of human flesh. And we are about 20 years after what they called the transition, where this had happened, and we are following a guy who works in a slaughterhouse. And it's very difficult reading, and it's very visceral, and Harriet said that it made her feel sick to her stomach, and I can see why. And there are very graphic descriptions throughout of the slaughtering process. There's discussions around eating human meat, what they call special meat. But for me, what I found fascinating, this book is just over 200 pages, it's 220 pages. But the author managed to build the whole world in that time, and that's what I always find so fascinating with dystopian fiction, is the world building. So even though it's such a short book, she managed to like get a sense of the whole world and how this one change has affected everything. So it's affected the language that people use, it's affected things like hunting. Nobody has any pets because no animals are allowed, and they're all killed on sight in case they've got this virus. So how does it affect that? And then it also looks at, he's got a niece and a nephew who don't remember consuming animal flesh because they weren't born. Their whole lives eating human flesh has been norm. And it looks at how they are affected, and there's mention of how companies make human flesh addictive. So the whole of society has changed because of this one change, and I just found it fascinating. Obviously content warnings for graphic descriptions of slaughtering, the slaughter process, also for sexual assault. It's not an easy read. I would only recommend it if you are sure that you can handle the topic. If you can handle it though, like I said, it's one of the best written things I've read this year. It's beautiful. Somehow she managed to make this absolutely horrific topic beautiful to read. And particularly sort of from the first third onwards, because it kind of opens with what's happened, and there's a tour of the abattoir because he's looking to employ some new people, so he takes them around and shows them what they do. And after that it does, like, the graphicness, there isn't quite as much of it, but occasionally, you know, you'll be going along and then suddenly he goes to a dinner party and they're serving human fingers as an appetizer, and it's just kind of that like reminder of the situation that the characters are in. So yeah, I thought it was fantastic, but please go carefully with it. It is not for everybody. And I gave it 5 stars. I don't know if I said that. Definitely a 5-star read. And then the final book that I finished over the weekend was Invisible Women: Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men by Criado Perez. Okay, so my brother gifted me this, which was lovely, and I do love this fantastic cover. So this is a non-fiction collection of essays around the ways that women are not catered for in the world and how things are structured for the male body. I've seen quite a few people talk about this. Harriet talked about it. I know that Seanan at 155 Books was reading it this week, so I'm sure she'll give her thoughts shortly. I didn't love it. I thought it was very interesting. I've given it 3 stars. I thought the premise of it was really interesting, but the writing, I got a bit bored basically. It's very data heavy, obviously, and I was expecting it to be, but I felt like, having watched other people's reviews of it, I already had like the main information that she gives. I also felt like it was really repetitive, and it was a little bit what I would call finger waggy. So for me, I'm not into the brand of feminism that is very much like jumping up and down, you should do this, you should do that. It's not really for me. And I struggled with that. I also struggled with the complete exclusion of trans people. And I know this has been talked about a lot online. This was, you know, and Harriet had said that this is supposed to be the start of the conversation, not the complete conversation, which I completely agree with. It's definitely the start of the conversation. But I feel like you can't talk about data gaps and then exclude a whole section of society. And this was written in 2018. Like, if this was written kind of 10 years ago, then it would still be annoying, but it would be a bit more forgivable. But for this to be written in 2018 and have no mention of trans people whatsoever, that really bothered me. So yeah, it wasn't as successful for me as I was hoping for. It was interesting, and kind of making me never want to go outside ever again, because clearly it's a dangerous place for a female body. But I did feel like it was a bit too long. There was too much repetition, and the exclusion of a massive section of our society was not okay with me. So there we go. So those are the books that I've read in the last couple of days. You can see Charlie's Easter egg up here as well. We've not had him yet. He's coming tomorrow, so he'll have his Easter egg tomorrow. Had a really nice bank holiday weekend, and now I have to go to work. It's the 16th of April, and I'm just about to settle down and start my work day. My desk is literally right here. I'm in my spare room. Do you guys want like a tour of my work from home setup? Would that be interesting? Would it be really dull? If it's really dull, that's fine, just tell me. Let me know in the comments, and if you guys want to, I'll stick it into next month's, what's next month? May. I'll stick it into next month's, into May's wrap-up video, if we're still here, which I think we probably will be. Anyway, yesterday I had 2 bits of bookish news, and I did actually originally film this clip, but I'm just refilming it because it's not often that I refilm, but I was clearly so tired after a really long work day that it wasn't great, and even for me I looked pretty rough, and yeah, so I'm just doing this now with a bit more energy. And the main reason I wanted to do that was because I was sent a gift. So this is The Chain by Adrian McKinty. I have wanted to read this for ages. I saw a few of my friends get ARCs for it, and it looks really interesting. It's basically, well, it says here on the front, the only way to get your child back is to kidnap another child. And I love a book with a good moral dilemma, like what would you do kind of thing. And this was sent to me by a lovely viewer called Audrey, so thank you so much, Audrey. This made my day. Honestly, yesterday was just... I'm really lucky to be fully employed at the moment, and I'm well aware of the privilege of that, but also because we're trying to do our normal work, but with a drastically, there's a third of the team still working. So yesterday was kind of a lot, and then I came down after work and found this, so thank you so much. I'm really excited to read it. I will definitely be reading it really soon, because I'm just completely intrigued. And then I also finished a book yesterday evening, which is The Cat in the City by Nick Bradley. This is an ARC, comes out on the 7th of May. This is the last of the ARCs that my cousin Ella gifted me for Christmas, and it was the book that came second in my try chapter tag, which I'll leave up here. And I really enjoyed it. I've given it 4 stars. If someone had described it to me, I wouldn't have picked it up, I don't think, because it doesn't really sound like my kind of thing. But it's basically a series of interconnected short stories set in Japan, and they're all connected by this cat. And I just really liked it. It was like slice of life stuff, and it's modern Japan, set just before the Olympics, which was actually I don't even know when it was, but it was like recently. Sorry, my knowledge of world stuff is pretty poor. So yeah, I think there's sort of 15 stories, something like that, and they're all loosely connected. Some of the characters sort of appear in other stories, but it's really subtle. So like one character, you'll be in a story with one character, they go to a restaurant to eat something, and then they spot someone, they notice a girl, and she's from a previous story, and then the cat shows up in all of them, sometimes really overtly and sometimes literally just in the background. And I just thought it was fabulous. The writing's really gripping. It's a debut novel. Some people are ridiculously talented. I know nothing about Japan at all, but I feel like I've had a tour of Tokyo, and like all the different sections of it, and you know, different social classes and all that kind of thing. I just thought it was brilliant. So yeah, if this is out, like I said, on the 7th of May, I would really, really recommend it. I don't usually get on that well with short stories, but I think because they were connected, this really worked for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It is the 17th of April, and I'm just about to go to work, but I thought I would switch up the reading space, the filming space, so at least you get a slightly different background. Is anyone else struggling with this who makes content? But anyway, I'm in my bedroom today, my garage bedroom, and whilst I look fairly presentable, like from here up, I'm like basically the woman of many patterns. I look like I've got dressed in the dark today, because I've got this cute cherry shirt on, but I've also got like these very loudly patterned trousers, and I'm not going to show you because I'm not flexible enough, but I've also got bright blue cat socks on, so it's a strong look. So yesterday was kind of a rubbishy work day, and then the boys and I went for our daily walk, which was a lovely, beautiful sunny day, so I was in quite a good mood when I got back, and then we got back, and on the doorstep were 3 Amazon parcels, and I hadn't ordered anything, and they were all for me, so it was pretty exciting to open those. I didn't film it because Charlie was around and I don't like having him on camera, so I'm going to talk to you about them now. But basically I have got incredibly wonderful and generous friends, and it felt like getting a hug after a really rubbishy day. So thank you to the people that sent me books. Also, I do want to say here, like, I do not expect books. You do not have to send me books or anything like that. I'm bowled over every time I get one. But I do not expect it. You absolutely don't have to do it. And yeah, there's plenty of other things you should be spending your money on right now. But anyway, these were the beautiful friends that sent me some books. I'm going to go through them in the order that I opened them. You can tell it's early in the morning. I haven't started work yet. First of all, I was sent by Chloe from Chloe Loves Books, Descent by Tim Johnston, which is a family thriller about a teenage girl that goes missing in the mountains, and I'm excited for this one. It does say on the back, it says Descent races like an avalanche towards its heart-pounding conclusion, so that bodes well. And that's a really creepy cover. I won't be able to save this until the next round of Thriller-a-thon, I wouldn't have thought, but if I did manage it, that would be a seriously good one for book with the creepiest cover, if it's still a prompt. So anyway, I was sent that. Then my lovely friend Leanne from Literary Divergence sent me The Death of Mrs. Westaway, Halloway? No, by Ruth Ware. I read all of the Ruth Wares except this one, so I properly squealed. I squealed when I opened all of these, but I properly squealed when I saw this one, because it's one I'm really excited for. Turns out it's one that Leanne also owns and wants to buddy read, so that's why she sent it to me, so I will really look forward to buddy reading that with her, hopefully in June. I'm not even really sure what this is about. Okay, so it's about a woman who is told that her grandmother's died and left her a load of money, but her grandparents died like 20 years ago, and she basically pretends to be somebody else, I'm guessing. Sounds really intriguing. Another really great creepy cover. Love that. And then the beautiful Shannon at 155 Books sent me an Atwood. She sent me Alias Grace. How gorgeous is this cover? I love this orange. A lot of the editions, like the books that they've done in these editions, are like either blue or green, so this like orange is really beautiful and punchy, and it goes really well with the story inside. Alias Grace is actually my favourite Atwood that isn't Handmaid's Tale, so I'm really excited to have this one. We're not going to be reading it for a little while yet, but once we do, I will be ready. So yeah, thank you to all my lovely friends who sent me these books. I feel very lucky and very spoilt, so thank you. It's the 19th of April. I've just finished filming the announcement video for Book for the Brave, which is why I've actually like got makeup on. Well, when I say makeup, I mean mascara and lip balm, which is as far as I go these days. But I've just had a knock at the door and I've got 3 Amazon parcels. Now, I have ordered one thing, but I don't know if it's this thing, or like this is one of them, and I don't know what the other 2 are. So I thought I would open them on camera because I'm trying to be better at doing that in case they're presents. So let's give this a go. See what we've got. So, oh yes, this is the thing that I ordered because that's what you do when you're stuck in your house, is order random stuff from the internet. It's a candle. It's a Parma Violets candle, and I can smell it through the tin. Oh, that smells just as they taste. So, random fact, Charlie's favourite sweets in the whole world, pretty much, are Parma Violets, and we buy him the giant ones. And I saw this, clearly, like Google or whoever has worked out how to advertise to me, because I saw this advertised on Amazon and now it's in my house. Annoyingly, Gary's just left to take Charlie back to his mum's, so we'll have to wait until he comes back in a couple of weeks. Although I might give it a little burn first just to test it, but that's a good one. I'd recommend that one. Right, let's see what these are. Let's try this one first. Oh, I thought it was going to be so slick then. No, fail. Right, what are you? Oh, I really wanted to read this. Who is this from? Ah, okay. So it's from a book fiend named Mel. Thank you for befriending me on Twitter and making great booktube content that always brightens my day. Hope you're doing as well in these weird times, Mel. Oh, thank you so much, Mel. That's really exciting. And look what she sent me. Daughters of the Lake. By Wendy Webb. I can't actually remember what this is about. Spellblinding gothic novel of tragic love and a century-old mystery that's yet to die. That's enough for me to read it. Clearly I want to do because it's on my wish list. Thank you so much. That's really exciting. So we've got that. That's a great cover. That's another one that would be a great one for like creepiest cover for Thriller-a-thon, but I don't think this is going to last until August. And then, let's not show my address on the internet. Okay. What is this? Oh yes! Who has sent me this? Oh, from Kerry. So, Kerry, I couldn't not get this. Sorry, I can't read at all today. I actually can't human at all. I couldn't not get you this from your wish list. It's a staple of every home library. Enjoy your gift from Kerry Louise Reads. Thank you so much. It's Pride and Prejudice. And I do actually have the complete works over there of Jane Austen in really pretty editions. But I wanted an edition that I could like actually read. I've read them all years ago. But I wanted like a reading edition. And this is a really pretty one. Look at that. Yes, thank you very much. I might read this. I've already got a classic for May, so I'll definitely be reading this in June. Thank you so much. What lovely presents. Again, like more gifts. You guys are too generous to me, really, honestly. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's the 21st of April. I am just on my lunch break and I've just finished The Missing. No, it's not. It's not called The Missing. It's called The Escape. I've already read The Missing. Sorry. The Escape by C.L.Taylor. This is marketed as a thriller, but I would say it's more of a domestic drama about a woman called Jo who is going to collect her daughter from nursery one day. A random woman pushes her way into the car and basically intimates that Jo's husband has stolen something from her, and it's about what happens from there. It's sort of more about family secrets and lies and all that kind of thing. Sorry, it's really windy, so sorry if you can, I've got my window open here. Yeah, I've given it 3 stars. To me it was pretty average, but it was an easy audiobook to listen to. Would recommend the narrator, she was really good. But yeah, overall it was just pretty average, so it's a 3 out of 5 from me. It's the 22nd of April, and before I start work for the day, I just want to talk about Accursed, Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer. I was very kindly gifted this by Steph from Steph Loves. I think it was either last month or the month before. It's in one of my wrap-ups. So yeah, she very, very kindly sent this. Actually, I think it was February. And I was really excited to read it, obviously. That's why it was on my wish list. This isn't my usual kind of thing because it's a YA fantasy retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but I've heard so many people talk about it, so this is definitely like Booktube made me do it kind of book, and I was obviously interested enough to put it onto my wish list, and then Steph was kind enough to send it to me. I also saw that my friend Kat from Perez and Reviews had this on her TBR, and so we decided to buddy read it. So it's our first time buddy reading together, which has been really fun. So Kat, thank you for reading with me. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I've given it 4 stars. I have heard a lot of hype about this book. A lot of people said that it made them really emotional and that they were like really into one of the relationships in the book. There was one thing that happened that did make me choke up. And I was really impressed with how well this was written. It's really fast paced. Harper, who is the main character, the kind of Belle character, is incredible. I love her. She is so kick-ass. She, you know, is always thinking what she can do to help herself and to help other people. She doesn't wait around for the boys to save her. She is like front and centre with a sword in her hand or an arrow, bow and arrow, whatever. Yeah, I thought she was absolutely brilliant. Ren, who is the Beast character, I also liked, although I found him a little bit frustrating because he was a bit weak, but then I guess that makes Harper even more of a kick-ass character. So yeah, they kind of balance each other out. I didn't really feel the relationship in this book too much, which is why I've given it 4 stars. And I also felt like the end could have been a little bit tighter. It felt very much like there is a second book in the series already, and then the third is out, I think, in January. And it did feel very much like it was written with more books in mind, which I personally find a bit frustrating with first books in a series. I'd rather have it feel like it's for one book, and then yeah, it's not always my favourite way of doing it, but I did really very much enjoy it. So thank you, Steph, for sending it to me. Thank you, Kat, for reading with me. I will definitely be picking up the next one, which is called A Heart So Fierce and Broken, because I really enjoyed it. It was a nice, fun, easy read, and I had a good time. It's the 24th of April, and yesterday I finished 2 very different books, which were books number 50 and 51 for the year, which is great because it means I'm on track for my 150 book goal for the end of the year. The first book that I finished was The Bird King by G. Willow Wilson, and this was a book that I was gifted at Christmas by my cousin, and to be honest, I wouldn't have picked this up on my own, but I did really enjoy it. First of all, can we just look at this beautiful cover, because it is stunning. I also really like that details like this follow all the way around onto the spine and then onto the back. It's just beautiful. It's a very beautiful book. So we are in 1491 during the reign of the last sultan, and it's a fantasy book, but it's one of those fantasy books that sort of feels like historical fiction. We're following a young girl called Fatima, who is the Sultan's concubine, and when the Spanish arrive to take over, she and her friend Hassan, who's a map maker, run away, and it's basically their sort of flight away from danger. Hassan is wanted by the Inquisition because they think he's a magician, because he can draw these incredible maps, and it's beautiful. It's got some absolutely stunning descriptions. I really liked Fatima and Hassan's friendship all the way through it, and it is a friendship, it's not a romance, which I've really liked. It is an adult fantasy, so just be aware of that. There is some violence and there is a sex scene, so it's definitely not for younger readers. But I thought this was really good. I've given it a 4 out of 5 stars because I felt like the pace was a little bit slow towards the end, and there were just a few bits I think could have been chopped out or sped up just to have made it a 5-star for me, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and given that I don't read YA fantasy really, let alone adult fantasy, this was a really nice surprise. My next book was Soulmates by Holly Bourne, and this is really kindly gifted to me by my friend Daniela, whose channel is Daniela Nina Reads. I just had to check it, I just wanted to make sure I got the channel name right because I've got the Amazon slip in here, who I will link in the description. She's so lovely. She's become someone I chat to regularly, and she was very kind enough to give this to me, I think in February, but I can't remember. So we all know I love Holly Bourne, which is why Daniela sent it to me. This is Holly Bourne's first published book, and I didn't love it. We're basically following Poppy, who meets a boy called Noah, and they fall in love, but at the same time we're also getting chapters from this strange organisation who is tracking them, and yeah, I gave it 3 stars. It's still well written because it's a Holly Bourne book, and even though it's her first one, you can kind of see the basis of a lot of her other characters in this book. There's really good chemistry between Poppy and Noah. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But the kind of sci-fi twist that she tried to put on it for me just didn't work, and it felt a bit silly. Also, we do get the I'm not like other girls trope in this, which I don't love. So it was really difficult because it's over 500 pages, it's thick. But I read it really quickly and I enjoyed reading it, and I enjoyed the relationship between Poppy and Noah. I just wish there wasn't the sci-fi twist on it. So this is obviously her debut, and it's a good reminder to me not to take debut authors on their first book if I don't like it, because we all know how much I love basically all of Holly Bourne's other books. I'm really glad I didn't read this first. I would say this is probably only one to read if you are like a hardcore Holly Bourne fan, otherwise I would probably give it a skip because it wasn't my fave. It's the 27th of April, and yesterday I started and finished The Chain by Adrian McKinty. If you can hear purring or moving around, I'm sat in front of our window in our bedroom and Jack is on the windowsill. He's literally just there. So if you can hear that noise, that's what it is. So yeah, I started and finished this book in one day. I was very kindly gifted it this month. You'll have seen the clip earlier in this video. There goes the cat. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've got to the point in the month where I've actually finished the TBR that I set for myself, but I don't want to start my May one because May is going to be quite a full-on reading month. I need to be reading books on specific days in the month because I'm vlogging, so I can't start early on that. So I was just looking through my shelves and I saw this and I thought, yes, I really want to read this, and I've wanted to read it for a while. I saw Nicole read it earlier in the year. I think she got an ARC and she gave it 4 stars, so I was like, yeah, this looks really interesting. So as it says on the front, the only way to get your child back is to kidnap another child, and that's really all I'm going to say about it because I don't want to give spoilers. We're following a woman whose teenage daughter is kidnapped from a bus stop, and she then gets a phone call to say that the only way to get her back is for her to kidnap another child. And it's one of those really good thrillers because it poses that question of what would you do and how far would you go. And I thought it was fab. It's really well paced. I've given it a 4 instead of a 5 only because I didn't completely love the end, and I did see the answer. like before I think we're supposed to, but that's fine. I still thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you to the person who sent this to me. Where is the Amazon slip? There we go. Let me just remind myself. Oh yeah, Audrey from Choose Yourself 101. Thank you so much for sending this to me. This was really fun. It was exactly what I needed right now. It was a fun, easy but thrilling read. It is very tense as well, which I really enjoyed. And yeah, it does pose the question of what would you do to get your child back? And those are all the books that I managed to finish in the month of April. I finished 14 books, which totaled 5,105 pages, which is about 171 per day. So I actually thought that my reading would slow down because of the lockdown situation, mostly because in normal life I have about a 45-minute commute either way each day, and I also walk to and from appointments, and I use that time to read books via audiobook. And so I thought without having that my reading would drop, but actually it hasn't. I've just increased the number of physical books that I'm getting through. So yeah, there we go. I've really enjoyed my reading month. I did only have an average rating of 3.57, but I think that's because I've given out quite a few 4 stars and a couple of 2 stars, which doesn't happen to me all that often. I did, however, give out 2 5 stars to 2 very different books, as seems to be the pattern. The first was The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum, and then the second was Tender as the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. Obviously 2 entirely different books, and both of them I gave both 5 stars. So I don't know what that tells you about my reading. My book of the month is going to be Tender as the Flesh. I thought this was absolutely incredible. It's one that I've thought about a lot since I finished reading it, and I already want to reread it, which is always a really good sign for me. I think the more I think about it, it's kind of more about loneliness than cannibalism, which is like the flashy shock value type element to kind of draw you in. But to me, it's a lot more about loneliness. Yeah, so I will probably reread this at some point this year, which obviously you'll see when I do. What I would say is I've seen quite a few people say that they've either ordered it or want to buy it because they've seen me rave about it. This book is not for everybody. Here comes the cat. This book is absolutely not for everybody. Please check the content warnings before you pick it up. Make sure that you can handle this kind of content. It is very visceral, it's very descriptive. It does not shy away from the subject matter, so please go careful. But if you are able to handle it, I think it's absolutely incredible, and like I said, it's one I really want to reread. So anything that I've mentioned in this video will be linked in the description. Please leave me a comment, let me know what your favourite read was in April, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks guys, bye!